Hey comic collectors, it's Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd. Have you ever had the FOMO bug bite you before? Well, if that's the case, you might appreciate this video. Let's take a look back at 3 months ago when I recommended 5 comic books not to buy, and let's see if buying those comic books then would have paid off today. So when I do these videos, I'll take a look at cover price. And that's because when I put out a poll, everyone suggested that that's the price guide that I should use for looking at stuff. So I want to use the one that people feel like is the most popular. And then I also take a look back at eBay sold listings because I feel like that's the best way to gauge prices kind of in the most unbiased way. There are issues with eBay sold listings, but it's sort of the best way to kind of parse the data in my opinion. So I say 3 months later and I'm still getting caught up on these videos. So actually this was quite a bit later. So we'll kind of try to keep it to the 3-month window since the video came out that I'm talking about for this one. In that video, I recommended not buying Batman Secret Files, #1, the 1 in 25 variant that was kind of getting hot at the time and appeared on some lists. And in my opinion, it was a bad buy because the first appearance of Miracle Molly isn't really doing that well. So why would this origin story issue, a 1 in 25 ratio, really do all that much better? So let's look at the raw sales data for this book. So you can see around the time I made the video, it was spiking. We were seeing, just kind of this raw average here. We were seeing about a 107.49 around the time I made the video. So 3 months later from that would be around, oh my gosh, there's just not much sales data. So it went from 100 to kind of close to 17, it looks like. Oh man, it dropped off real fast. So that video, I think, was made on the 24th. We started seeing sales kind of in the $25 range, going through December. Man, no one's even buying this book so the 3-month window for this would have been the end of December, right around Christmas time. And yeah, I'm not seeing anything there. And this one didn't have any graded values, right? No. Okay, let's look at eBay for this one. So eBay does cap out how far back I can look at this, but the 1 in 25 variant, the first sale I see is on December 14th for $20. 25. I mean, you could get a 9.8 of this book for $35 from CBCS. And then we're getting into past their 3-month window. Boy, I think this is really easy to call this one a bust. There was no reason to buy this book back in September. All right, so the next one on this list is Champions 22. I still see this book going up for sale every once in a while. This is kind of like this trend we've seen. I think Bry's Comics kind of popularized this idea that these are keys, these like first meetings of these modern characters. And I do think that long term, there's something to be said for that. Short term, I don't necessarily think there's too much to it, but let's put that to the test. Champions 22 is the first appearance, the first meetup of Braun or Amadeus Cho and Ironheart. So let's see here. So in raw sales for this book, again, we're seeing that was really peaking big time. That's insane around the time I made that video. And then if we go forward in time, it's dropped off from that spike. But let's see what we can find out here. So around the 24th, $43, $50. Kind of hard to say the condition on these. They listed this one as a 9.4 for 40. Okay, actually, it fell off quite a bit in October. $30 in October, 27, 23. So if you bought it for 25 to $50, I think you're going to have been disappointed based on what cover price is saying here. Let's take a look at graded though. Graded in a 9.8, which is the only grade I'm really going to look at for a book like this. It sold for $277. So that's interesting. We only have one data point. How about on eBay? Okay, on eBay, we go back to November and we see this $27.66, $29.99. These are listed as near mint. I'd have to kind of dive into each one of them to see, what we're looking at. In December, I will say we had a $40 and a $35. By the end of December, that was the best offer. I'd have to go double check a different site to get that information. Back down to 29, 28. I think this is pretty flat. Now, again, I do think long-term there might be something to this, but the big point I was making when I made that video is don't rush out and pay FOMO prices. See if you can buy it on a dip. And I think that's still holding true. You probably can kind of wait on this one and get a good deal. Okay, how about Nebula 1, first solo series for Nebula, a character that we know is coming back for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with James Gunn. So a lot of excitement around that character, totally. I would say her first appearance is definitely one that I would be interested in right now. In fact, I did pick up a copy of her first appearance, so kind of putting my money where my mouth is. And let's see. This one's had more sales. In fact, the graph here actually goes back further than the point I'm looking at. So I made the video on the 24th, and we were seeing sales anywhere from 1776. Hey, that's a freedom number. All the way through $30, and then we'll see a $40 sale. Not seeing anything that really rises above that. We got a $37 sale in October. A couple short, smaller sales. Those could be in lower condition, of course. $37 sale in October. In November, looks like November was the time to buy this book. Sales between $10 and $20. And then we see it go back between 10 and 22 in December. So again, that's the time frame we were really looking at it for this book. I think that based on what I'm seeing there, that looks pretty good for my prediction. So I want to say my gut reaction here is there's been a lot of sales on this book. However, if I really look at it, there's a lot of Avengers 257 and a lot of Gamora 1 mixed in with this. So it looks like a lot because there's like 5 pages, but as far back as I can go on eBay, it's looking at between $17 and $19. Moving forward, a lot of Avengers, which I think is the better book here. Let's jump ahead. Now, if you're wondering, like, hey, wait a minute, are you kind of like selling this short here? I will do in another 3 months, I will do a follow-up that'll be the 6 month later look. So I'll capture all that new data that you're kind of like being like, hey, wait a minute, what about that? This is a look literally 3 months later after I made the video. Again, I'm still getting caught up on those videos because I hadn't really planned on making this series. $22, and that was on December 23rd. $10 for a VF Plus copy, apparently. $8, $10. So I think, I can clearly say that from what I can tell here, on the raw copies, your patience paid off for waiting for this book. For graded copies, we might be seeing a lot of these copies being going to CGC right now. So it'll be interesting to see what 9.8s come out at. I don't know that there were going to be a ton of those, and we all know CGC is really wonky right now about turnaround times. So let's see what happens with that. Okay, the fourth book I looked at was Spawn 309, specifically the McFarlane cover, which was a Gunslinger Spawn cover. And this is the one I'm most nervous about. Looking at the raw sales, I think this one looks like it dropped off, but it looks like it might be going back up again. Again, we're looking at that September 24th time frame. I'd say $25, and then we're seeing a pretty steady trend actually where it's held that price through October. It drops a little bit in November with a $19 and $25 sale, and then it really kind of drops off. I mean, $8, $23, $22, $16 in December. So that's interesting. We got to go check eBay. We have to be careful here not to confuse these with the second printings. So when I go back to November 29th on eBay, I see 20, 1150, 16, in December 10. Wow, one sold for 99 cents with one bid. That's crazy. $23 on December 3rd. If we go forward in time, so at the end of December, we finally saw a 9.8 sale for $120. I feel like that's pretty good for a 9.8 for something that's kind of a hot cover. A 9.8 best offer accepted on a CBCS. 9.8 best offer, 25, 20. So I think really this book's kind of held steady from what I can see. Maybe dipped off a tiny bit, but I'm actually going to say it's pretty flat. So that means there was no reason to jump on the hype train and buy it. And it does look like a couple of people got it for a lower price. If you're really looking for this book, I would maybe consider getting it now, because if it's holding steady value like that, maybe it'll be a book that will climb at some point in the future once those copies do start to dry up. And people kind of, the Gunslinger Spawn series, the solo series has been running for a little while now. It's exciting, but I wouldn't say it's like tearing the world up. The character is about as popular as he was back then. It's kind of my sense of how things are going. So now might be a time to pull the trigger on those books. Okay, this was my controversial pick for this week. A lot of comments on that video were about this book, Amazing Spider-Man 361, the first full appearance of Cletus Cassidy as Carnage, which is a fancy way of saying first full appearance of Carnage. Okay, so for those of you that like graphs, we can see that there's actually been a lot of sales data on this to the point where we don't get to go back to see 2021 on this graph. So let's go back and look at 2021. September 24th is when I made that video, and it was going for 125, 125, 261, 135, 162, 182, mostly in the high 180 kind of territory, a couple in the 200s. In October, we see anything from 120 to 206, 240, 270. So there's some high numbers there. In October, oh my gosh, we see a lot of double digit prices. 91, 90. We do see 1270 at an 8.5. That's surprising. 70, 99. So these all could be low grades. That's the thing that's difficult about doing this when this is raw, and I totally realize that. In December, 175, 58, 117. This is interesting. This is kind of a little more, these are all mostly lower, but there are, it looks like the high grade books are kind of getting separated out from the low grade books, which makes sense. But I think the tail of the tape on this one's going to be in graded. Only grade that matters on this book, as far as I'm concerned, is a 9.8 for the baseline of this test. I mean, it'd still be fun to own this book like in an 8.5 or something like that. But let's go to September 24th. And okay, so $900, $899. That's a huge outlier. It looks like 400, 875, 830, 800, 870, 880. So maybe not that huge of an outlier for that time period, but there is a range there. People were getting good deals. In October, I see 850, 821, 1200. Wow, I wonder if that was a signed book. 709, 735. We're seeing prices go down. 645, 695, 595. And then in November, 750, 840, 700. So tapering off. Wow, in December, 150. That's an outlier. 840, 590, 625, 780, 840. So kind of a weird transition there. I think that this book has maybe cooled off a little bit, but it hasn't dropped as much as I expected, actually. Although some people definitely looks like they got some deals in there, although a couple of those are also outliers. I wouldn't really pay attention to those outliers. So I'm on eBay now, and I've filtered by sold, and what I'm tempted to do here, and I'm calling it audible, I want to filter this by CGC 9.8. And the reason why is because there's so many, on a modern comic like this that is a first appearance like this, there's a lot of variants. We'd have to look at each one of those listings and really kind of determine the grade. I think this is the right way to do it for this book, where I know there's been a lot of movement on it. And in fact, even then, I don't know if we're going to get back as far as I want to look. Yeah, interesting. I can only get back to November 27th. So 9.8 with a Spidey label. Why does that say PGX? Oh, they're just trying to use that for buzzwords, I guess. This was a newsstand for 720. November 28th, 700. 629, 819. 360 second print. Okay. 820 and for a newsstand. 560. We're up to about November 30th. In December, that's so weird. 150. That's a one bid, man. Somebody really messed up there. 510 with 25 bids. So that book definitely got worked on. So here we have a newsstand for 815. So we are seeing a trend here. Newsstands are going for a lot more. Here's that $1,100 sale on December 5th. I think that's what we were looking at earlier. It's a newsstand signature. Kind of helps explain that. 98, 582. Newsstand 860. So I think we're seeing the real thing here. Newsstand copies were what was going for that big bucks. If we're looking at directs, 570. Here we have one for 695. So, and let's get to the end of December. 600, 830 on a newsstand. One bid on a direct was 550. So I think that, what I'm seeing here is when you're seeing $700 to $800 to $900 or so, or whatever we were seeing on cover price for those graded slabs back in September, if you waited to that 3-month mark, you were definitely getting it for cheaper. And a little bit of that was a gamble, right? Like, what if he did a really good job in that movie? And what if he was sticking around for future sequels? And, which still could happen. It's movies and it's comic books, so we don't really know. What I can say, though, is I'm glad that I didn't buy it then. If anything, now would be a better time to buy it. And potentially that's going to continue to go down. Symbiotes are still popular, still a very popular character. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to be seeing more of Carnage in some form or other at some point. So this book isn't down for the count or anything like that, but it is interesting that what we're seeing here. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed my look back at my top 5 not to buy 3 months later to look at that price analysis and see, was it a good idea not to buy those books or not? Mostly, I think we did pretty good on saying that you shouldn't buy those books and that you should have waited until they were off those top 10 lists or top 20 lists or whatever they were on at the time. I think that's usually held true over the course of these videos. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to support me somehow, I recommend becoming a channel member so you get access to cool emoji in my live streams and stuff like that. Plus, you can also join my Discord if you want to chat about your comic book pickups or future upcoming videos I'm doing and that kind of stuff. And also, I have a list of discounts down below in the description, so you can save money on things like Gemini comic book mailers, cleaning and pressing over at Turlock Comics, save money on your comic books over at dangerouswaterscomics.com. All kinds of cool discounts down there. All right, duders, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And until next time, I want to remind you, as always, hey, 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 hey. Read comics every day.